Elijah went into the wilderness, and sitting, he wished he were dead. He said, Lord, I have had enough. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. Let's start this morning from the first book of Kings, chapter 19, 4-8. I love the honesty of the Bible. At various points, at various instances, the Bible tells us stories of real people. People even today we venerate as saints, as great men and women, how they struggled in their lives. In the first reading of today, the Bible tells us about an interesting episode in the life of one of the greatest prophets of God in the Old Testament, Prophet Elijah. How he struggled with depression, to the point that Elijah cried out to God and said, I think I have had enough. Take my life. In our today's world, we can actually say that Elijah was struggling with suicidal thoughts, depression, that persistent feeling of sadness, emptiness, hopelessness, meaninglessness. You don't find pleasure and fulfillment in who you are and what you do. Life makes no meaning again to you. Depression can be caused by a number of factors: bereavement, loss of job, pressure from work, breakdown of relationship or marriage, illness, injustice. A whole lot of factors could cause depression. But what actually caused Elijah's depression? And looking at Elijah's experience, how can we handle it when it comes around? I mean depression, or when we are feeling low. Elijah's depression started immediately after his famous victory on Mount Carmel. How he victoriously defeated and eliminated over 400 prophets of Baal. At that battle of supremacy to determine which is the authentic prophet, God decided to confirm Elijah, his son servant, as his own authentic prophet, sent down fire from heaven and consumed Elijah's sacrifice, thereby confirming Elijah as his chosen servant. Having been so confirmed, Elijah, through prayers, brought back rain into the country after 3 years of drought. Elijah was such a powerful prophet. He was such a renowned man of God. He did a lot of great things. He raised the dead also. He was among the very two in the Bible who accomplished that through the power given to him by God. However, when the king at the time, King Ahab, saw what Elijah accomplished, he went home and narrated to his wife Jezebel all that Elijah did. Jezebel, a wicked wife of the king, decided to kill Elijah, so he threatened Elijah. Out of fear, Elijah ran away into the wilderness. But Elijah was not only running away out of fear, Elijah was also sad. Elijah was disappointed in God. Elijah was discouraged. How can you allow me to be threatened? How can someone be coming after my life? All that I have done for you, you can't even protect me. So out of frustration, Elijah ran away into the wilderness, where he expressed his suicidal thoughts. I think I have had enough. Take my life. There's no reason living again. I don't know if life has ever pushed you to that breaking point where you consider it better, you consider death as a viable option, where you question your existence, where you question your elements, where you question even the choices you have carefully and intentionally made, where you question yourself, what on hell am I doing here as a priest? Why did I marry this person? Why did I take up this job? Why am I still alive? Have you gone to that point when you wish you were dead? Because of pressure, because of circumstances of life? That was what Elijah experienced. And that was what we read today. That Elijah at a point was so depressed and frustrated that he considered death an option. As I said, that was the man who controlled the weather. That was the man who raised the dead. That was the man through whom life and meaning and rain came back into the nation after 3 years of drought. That was the man who accomplished so much, who had direct contact and direct relationship with God. Elijah had his high moments and low moments. I'm so good. Now looking at Elijah's experience, what can we learn? Number one, when Elijah became depressed, what did he do? He ran into the wilderness. And we all know what wilderness signifies. A place of nothingness. Nobody is there. Nothing is there. By going into the wilderness, Elijah isolated himself and cut himself off from the community, from everybody. He self-isolated. And if you read that story down, when he was alone in that wilderness, God came to him and said, Elijah, what are you doing in the wilderness? Elijah said, they have killed everybody. I am the only one remaining. I am the only one still alive. And God said, no, it is not true. Down on the mountain, Elisha is waiting for you to be anointed. Down on the mountain there, I have appointed 2 persons as kings and are waiting for you to anoint them. Down there at the mountain, 7,000 people are waiting for you, Elijah. You have 7,000 people rooting for you as your supporters and fans. And here you are, isolating yourself. And that is the first thing depression does to you. It gives you the sense that the world is shut out. You are alone. So Elijah thought that he was alone. And that is why he isolated himself. When you feel low, when you are depressed, when you feel down, I advocate that walk away from whatever that made you depressed, or the circumstances, or the people that facilitate your depression. But please, do not shut out the entire world. Leave a little window open, maybe like this window there. A little window of communication. Because when we are low spirited, when we are down, our mental faculties and our psychological and emotional states, they are also down. And at that moment, you may not be able to think well or function well. Therefore, it becomes necessary that there is always someone in your life that you can always talk to when you are feeling low. But when you take in everything, one of the things God has made us to be is that we are fragile. When you take in a lot, it wears you down all the more and you can break down. Let there be someone, that's what I refer as the window. Let there be someone you can always talk to. It doesn't mean that the person you are talking to or your listener, that he has got the magic solution to your depression or to your story. But sometimes, talking about it brings so much relief to your soul. Elijah made that mistake. He isolated himself. And as I said, the first thing that depression does to you is to think that nobody is there for you. And that's what he told God. Number 2, when Elijah was depressed in the wilderness, he did something significant. In his wish, he called on God. I said, Lord, I had enough. He directed his thought prayerfully to God. And God answered him by sending an angel to minister to Elijah. Now, it happened that sometimes when we are low and we cry out from our anguish praying to God, That is one step. But also when you cry out to God, may you open your eyes, may we open our eyes to discover how God is going to respond. Because when Elijah cried out to God, God didn't come by himself. He sent an angel. And when the angel came, Elijah was smart enough to recognize that that was God answering him. Sometimes when we feel low and cry out, we have in our head where we expect God to answer. You might be expecting God to show himself in a mighty form, but he might decide to send you somebody as tiny as Nathaniel. And then when I show up there, you may think, oh, this is not what I'm looking for. So when you pray out in your depressive moment, also look out to know how God is going to answer, because he will certainly answer, and he's going to send an angel. How? In what form? I don't know. Finally, when you are depressed, when we are depressed, please understand it, that depression is a human phenomenon. It's part of what makes us human. It's part of our human experience. So we shouldn't feel that because we are depressed, something strange, something horrible is happening to us. No. The Bible presents to us today the greatness of Elijah and the personality of Elijah and the humanity of Elijah. That this man who was that famous and great, there was a time in his life he felt so low spirited. So when it happens to you, don't think that something out of this world is happening to you. It is a phase. And therefore, if you understand it as a human experience and also a phase, something that is going to go away with time, at that moment, therefore, you are depressed, please do not take any action. Because as I said before, when we are in that state, our mental faculties, our emotional abilities are on holidays. They can't function. And that was why when Elijah expressed his frustration and disappointment, what did he do? He didn't take any action. He lay down and slept. When you are depressed, when you feel that the whole world is turning around and against you, when you think that things are no longer working well, it's not the moment to take a decisive step or decision. Because whatever decision you take at that time, you might, when the water has settled, you might discover that you hadn't taken the best of decisions. So dear friends, as I said at the beginning, I love the honesty of the Bible, presenting to us the weakness of our great men and women. Elijah was depressed. In his depression, he expressed suicidal thoughts. That is being human. But he didn't do anything. In his depression, he called on God. And God answered him. And Elijah recognized that the angel was not ordinary. That was God answering him. And finally, let us not make the mistake of Elijah. Do not isolate yourself. Do not shut everybody out. It has not helped. Always find someone to talk to. It brings the spirit up just by talking.